Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Genesis Cyclist. I'm your host. And this is going to be about this part tool chain gauger, which gauges that kind of chain. And this is going to be my first time doing this, so for anyone else who has not done this either, then welcome to the club. So according to this is the specific instructions for this. It has multiple languages, which is really confusing. So I'm going to stick to English, because that's what I'm good at. So this is what it is, and you're more than welcome to pause it at any time, so that way you can read it for yourself, because I'm just going to put it right here, like that. So now it's time to open it up and gauge my chain, just because I am actually very curious if my chain is stretched out at all. And they say for chain stretches and whatnot, the chain cannot stretch, but it can be worn out of place. So, essentially meaning it can be stretched. So, yeah. And it can be stretched or worn extendedly or whatever by the load that it carries, because this right here is the load carrier, and this is the load that this is carrying, and this is what propels it forward. So therefore, however much of a load that this has to carry from here to here, this teeth right here is the load force. So this is a force driving the load out. Well, I don't know if anybody actually has this as particular terminology for these words. I'm just making this up as I go, quite literally. So, as this teeth is what drives the load, this here's the load, and this is the load carrier. So as this does that, then it will actually stretch apart these things however it is used. Especially if you're going like against headwinds, or you're carrying a bicycle trailer, or whatever behind your bike and whatnot that is going to carry extra force or extra heavy weights, and that is going to have to drive this at a harder pace or whatever. And it's going to have to drive this in under heavier loads. Then that will stretch this out a little bit. Let's put that to the test. So I have no clue how well this is actually going to go, but here goes nothing. So that is what it's doing. I don't even know if it's actually working properly or not, but that's what it's doing. So, if in that case means that it's a bad chain or whatever, because it's not going in at all, then yeah. Now let's see what the picture says. Okay, so according to this right here, this diagram, this is where you're supposed to pinch this right here, according to that right there. And that right there will depend on how far down this goes down on a tooth. So, according to that tooth right there, it's supposed to go down all the way, and it is not going down all the way. So, that means this is a bad chain. It's out by 75%. That means according to this, it needs to be replaced, because it's supposed to go down just like that for a good chain. And since it's not doing that, then it's in desperate need of replacement. So that is what is called extended chain, or worn out chain, whatever you want to call it. So there you go. My first time doing that, and anyone else's first time watching this that has never done it either, there you go. I hope you guys enjoy that tutorial, and as always, love and peace. Till next week. Alright, so while I have to replace this chain, because as you've seen, it's been extended has been stretched out, So I have to take that apart and replace it, in which I already have I've already shown you guys the new chain that I'm going to put on here. But before I put that new chain on here and break this chain apart, I do have a chain breaker, so that's not a problem. But before I do that, instead of just putting new things on old gears, so to speak, or in other words, instead of putting a new chain on worn gears, I'm going to go ahead and take out my front sprockets and also my rear sprockets, and I'm going to clean these things out. So for that, I'm going to need something to take this apart, which usually people would say to actually go behind here, get some kind of instrument, and put this like this and keep banging it out until this comes out, which I have learned myself. It is a horrible, terrible, no good idea. Don't do it, ever. Reason why, using my bicycle as an example, I might get another of the same bicycle. I'm actually thinking about doing that. Is because if you do that, then this will happen. I mean, you hear very little of it, but it has a very slight play to it, which it did not have before. So, because of that, because I decided to be the idiot and look up some YouTube channels that regarded this thing, and that's exactly what they did, I decided to start trying it out, but I decided not to finish that. Because I'm like, you know what if this damages my bicycle or my sprocket, and I don't want to damage it? So then I started looking up some other YouTube videos that dealt with this stuff, and turns out, I did not know there was such thing as a puller. So there's actually a sprocket puller that is designated to actually fit inside here, so it doesn't damage the circle in here and doesn't damage what's in here to take out the sprocket. So since learning that, I went ahead and decided to get myself one from eBay or Amazon, one of the two. But I got one and it is now in, so now I get to unpackage that so I can actually take this out the proper way, the only way to do it. So let's go ahead and get that done. Alright y'all, so for this right here, the way my bike works on this part is first I gotta take off this right here. There's not a protected dust cover here. There is on my other side, but there's not on this side, so I don't have to worry about the dust cover. But I am going to want to clean up all this dirt and grime before I put anything on here or anything like that. So, I mean, it's not going to hurt anything per se for right now, but before I use this to put it in there, because this is what I'm going to have to use after I take this part out, I don't want all that there getting this here all junked up on the first use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this part here, then I'm going to clean this part up, and then I'm going to clean up this part here before I take this out. So that's what I'm going to do. So the correct socket that I would need for this one here would be this one right here, 9/16. It can technically take a little bit smaller, but the smallest one I have, the next size down I have, is too small for this one. There is a smaller size than this that can be used, but unfortunately I do not have the smallest size, because the next small size that I have down from this is too small to fit that. So this one here is the size I need to fit this, as if it's just like that. This is what is called a squared tapered type of 3-set crank, because this is the crank itself. So the thing that I was talking about earlier is called a crank puller. So when you're pulling off this crank, then you don't want to sit there and jab it on here and here and here and here, which is probably the best thing you can do if you do not have a crank puller. But crank pullers are honestly not that expensive. It is definitely worth every penny. So you can get yourself a crank puller so you don't damage this part here at all, and you don't damage in there, because that right there is the internal part of the crank. And right there, as you can see, that is the end of that part there. So this here is basically snugged onto the spindle right there. That's what this, and that's what that black part is a spindle, and that's what this is attached to. And for my specific bike, not all bikes are like this, but this is common, but not all bikes are like this. For mine, it takes a CCP-22 or a CW something else. I'll tell you when I get that part. So this is what the crank puller for my specific bike look like. So this is what the crank puller for my specific bike looks like. And what happens is this here goes inside that right there, which is why I need to clean that out first. So this goes inside, and after that, this here continues to push inside of this thing, going out this way, so this here protrudes out of this, which pushes this crank out. So that's what the intention of this here does, which means it protects the entire thing, and it's being forced directly from the middle instead of from the sides where it can be damaged. But now, it's time to clean this. And just for those of you who are doing this, I would not suggest them wearing actually clean pants. If you have a pair of work pants that's you don't actually use for work, but you actually use it for like your own type of work or your workshop or something like that, or for maintenance or whatever, then, or raggedy clothes, then that I would strongly suggest them wearing. And also having a rag underneath this thing, so that way you can not get dirt and grime on your stuff. This isn't the best way to clean this up, but I'm using what I have to the best of my ability. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this on this, threading that to that. And it's probably the only time I do a commentary on this, and when I do this next, not if but when, then I will not have commentary. I'll just be strictly see me working. And want to make sure you tighten it. And that's the part I was afraid of. I thought I was going to actually get into there. And I'm not going to be able to do this with one hand, so... And while you're doing this, make sure you also have the chain off of the front cogs. Just like that. And it is a little bit of a struggle, but you can manage and it's not that hard afterwards. And there you go. Now, it's not, for those of you who don't know, this is not going to come out because it's still hooked onto there by this lock ring right here. And now you can see where the play is. And that's because I, like an idiot, decided to try to bang this out from this side before I knew better, and then after knowing better, or after pausing to learn better, then I stopped immediately. But there's no damage to this thing right here immediately, but inside there, don't know. But I'm not trying to clean that part out right now. But eventually, I will probably get in there, and I'll probably replace the spindle, and probably with the wheel bearing inside of there too. And history tip. Ball bearings existed for bicycles way before it existed for vehicles. So all those people who have cars out there, including myself, bicycles came first.